Everyone, it's Lucy from My Crazy Craft Life, and today I'm here with a design team post for Scrapping for Less. Today I'm going to be making the Impossible card, and I'm using a couple different stamp sets here. I'm using the Castles and Dreams sentiment stamp and the Myths and Legends sentiment stamp, along with the Neutrals paper. So you can see this is just a single sheet of paper that it's made from, and we're going to kind of go through how to make this card. So I started out, I used some antique linen I didn't want the paper stark white that I'm going to be stamping the book onto. I wanted it to kind of look a little old. So I'm just using that antique linen. And then I'm going to be using the sentiment stamps and stamping them inside of the book. And I'm going to have to cut them apart and kind of piece them together. Now I'm making two because I am going to use one on the front of the flap that sticks up and one on the back where I can write to who to who I'm giving it to, or whatever little note that I want to make on there. So I'm going to cut my sentiments apart and just kind of place them around into how I think I want it to look. Now if you do this or you're using small stamps, using a pencil eraser seems to work really well, that it doesn't stick to it, so you can move it pretty easily on there. And then once I get it all set, or where I think I have it set, I'm going to just throw a piece of scrap paper on top of the stamped image, because I know this is the area that it needs to fit into, and then I just want to make sure that it's straight and it looks the way I want it to look once it's on the stamp platform. I am using Mocha stamp from Your Next Stamp EQ, and you can see there some of it was a little bit off, so I wanted to try it again and kind of see how that looked. And I just moved it around until I got it to the position that I wanted it to be in and how I wanted it to look. And it can take a few tries to make sure that you get it there, but once you do, then like I said, it's pretty easy just to stamp it in the area you want. Now this is the card itself. It is from a single sheet, so this is not a complete card base. This is just one sheet. And you are going to score it. This is an A2 size card, and you are not scoring it. You are going to mark it at 2 1/8 inches. Now you can just use your board or your mat that you have on there to do it, or you can just tick it off and then draw a light pencil line. Then you're going to flip it on its side, and you're going to draw a line only to the line that you drew at the 2 3/4 mark. So that is half of a 5 1/2 inch of the 5 1/2 inch side. Then on the bottom part of it, you're going to, just from the line that you drew in the center at the 2 1/8 inches, draw a 1 inch line on each side. Now you are going to cut all of those lines that you drew into the center. So just those 3 lines, and that's all you're going to do is cut them. And you want to cut them right up to that center, but you don't want to go too much over, but you do want to make sure that you get to that center, because otherwise when you flip this, it will rip the paper. The other thing I do, just because I think that it helps it to move easier, is I am going to score in the center of the 1 inch, kind of right in between there. You don't want to score the whole thing, but if you just score right in between on that panel, right on the center, that'll help it move over. The next thing, I would erase all of your pencil marks before you start flipping the card or decorating it or anything like that. Make sure you get all those markings off of there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to hold the piece in your hand, and one hand is not going to move, and you're just going to completely flip around both little side pieces and then just score them down. Now what this is going to create is that panel in the center that's going to flip up. So there again, you just hold it in one hand, don't move one side, and flip the other corner all the way around to a 90 degrees. And then that Center panel, you decorate. You can decorate the side. Now, I think if you used a paper pattern or pattern paper, this would work really well too, because then you wouldn't even have to embellish that as far as cutting out the pieces. However, I did cut out the pieces, and if you're going to do this on this A2 size card, and this will work on any card size, it's just a matter of figuring out the dimensions of what you want to use to decorate it for the layering panels. Now, if you're going to layer it, you're going to need two 2.5 by 4 inch pieces, and then you're going to need two 3 1/4 by 1 7/8 pieces. And that is going, those two last ones are going to be the ones that are on the pop-up portion of it. This will fit perfectly into an A2 size card. Now, when you cut this, you're going to put the long side or the short side up to the top of your trimmer, and you're going to mark it out at 1 3/4, and you're going to move it all the way up to the 2-inch mark. Then on that 1 3/4 side, you're going to cut it all the way to that 2-inch mark, and that will give you a perfect fit. So again, you're going to have your 2 1/4 or 2.5 by 4 inch piece. You are going to put the 2.5 inch side so that it is up to 1 3/4. You're going to cut it up to the 2-inch mark. You're then going to put it 2 inches on the opposite side, flip it over, and do it 2 inches so that it's sticking out the 2 inches, and then go all the way up to the 2-inch mark, and you're going to cut out that piece, and that's going to give you that little side piece, and then the rest of it will fit on the other side. Now I'm going to end up putting a banner on here, and the banner that I cut, the piece that I used for the sentiment is 4 3/4 by 3/4 of an inch, and the background strip is 5 1/4 by 1 inch. And then I'm just going to start piecing this card together. Like I said, this card is super easy. It is a little bit tricky when you first look at it, because it's kind of hard to wrap your head around how you just flip it. Just one side, you're flipping all the way to the other side. But other than that, it's a super simple card. And because, especially with layering this up, it's sturdy enough so that when you're going to mail it, there's no problem there. And you can put it whichever way you want. Now, I will say if you're going to end up using a banner on here, and depending on how long the banner is, you're not going to be able to flip it, because mine's really long, so it's going almost the entire length of the card. So you can't just flip the card like you normally would. But like I said, if you lay everything flat, you just pop it right in the envelope, and when they open it up, that middle portion will just pop right up. Now, the other thing that I actually do in here is when I stick this down, that panel, the banner, I adhered both sides. And I wouldn't suggest doing that. I would leave that motion up so that it can flip, especially if you're doing it with a shorter piece. So now that I have all of the layering portions done and I got the pieces all done, I'm just going to place everything down. And like I said, there you see I actually put it down on both sides of that strip and banner. I did pop up the front with the sentiment on the front book with some foam tape just to give it a little bit of dimension. On the one in the back, I did not do that. But then I realized I didn't want to do that. And if you ever do that, meaning you adhere something and you don't want it adhere, or you put tape on something that you don't want, if you use your embossing tool, powder tool, you can just put that on there, and then that way it will take out all of the stickiness from that tape, and I won't have to worry about it sticking to that side. So that's it. I want to thank everybody for joining me. Make sure you head over to Scrapping for Less, because these two stamp sets, as well as the Neutrals paper pad, are there at the store available to you. I will link those below. Make sure you have a great day. Take care, and everybody stay healthy. See you next time.